On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast, Tesla CEO Elon Musk details the next couple versions of FSD Supervised, and I'll tell you why these are going to be major updates. Plus, some Supercharging team members get rehired, there's been another price adjustment on the new Model 3 Performance, and more. What's happening, friends? I'm Ryan McCaffrey, joining you as always here every single Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific for Ride the Lightning, your weekly Tesla unofficial podcast. This is episode 459 for May 19th, 2024. I want to start this podcast with a quick congratulatory note to Tesla's Fremont factory and Giga Nevada teams for producing their 3 millionth car this week. Tesla announced the milestone on its X account right at the end of the week here on Friday as I record just a few hours ago. And if you're curious, the 3 millionth car to come out of Fremont wasn't a Model 3 or a Model Y this time, as I feel like the last couple of million milestone cars were. This time, it was a metallic blue long-range Model S with 19-inch wheels. So that'll be some really deep-cut Tesla trivia at some point along the way. If you're ever in that sort of situation where you want to play some super hardcore Tesla trivia with your friends, keep that one in your back pocket, and you will probably stump your friends. Well, I have to say, and I know I speak for so many of you out there, although not all of you have Fremont-built cars, but for all of you that do, I am so very, very proud and very, very grateful, super grateful to own one of those 3 million cars made right here in the San Francisco Bay Area, only about 45 minutes from where I'm sitting right now. So Tesla, here's to the next 3 million from Fremont. Next up this week, we get warmed up with this one, a little next-gen Roadster talk. Tesla tipster Sawyer Merritt stomped out some FUD this week and got a response from Elon in the process. It's in regards to the aforementioned next-gen Tesla Roadster that we continue to wait eagerly for. The FUD in question came from the outlet called The Information, who claimed that the Roadster team that's developing the car now was surprised when Elon tweeted a couple months ago about the Roadster doing 0 to 60 twice as quick as the original reported 1.9 seconds. Basically twice as quick, the 1.1 seconds. Sawyer posted, quote, "The Information wrongly reported today that the team working on Tesla's new Roadster were caught off guard by Elon's post a couple months ago that the vehicle would do 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 1 second. Elon already confirmed in May of 2021 that it would do a 0 to 60 time of about 1.1 seconds. To which then Elon responded to Sawyer's post saying, quote, "It would also obviously be ridiculous for the Roadster to achieve simply the same 0 to 60 time as Model S, even though it is a two-door, fully performance-oriented vehicle." Speaking there, of course, about the upcoming Tesla Roadster. Well, it's fair to note that we are talking about a couple of different acceleration modes here. I think modes is the best word for this. The Information was referring to the original electric motor only acceleration, which had originally promised that 1.9 second sprint to 60 back at that November 2017 unveiling of the car. However, as you may remember from back in 2021, when that very red Roadster prototype went on display at the Peterson Auto Museum, and I drove down to go study it, did a day trip in my car down to LA, the museum placard mentioned 1.1 seconds 0 to 60 with the SpaceX cold gas thrusters helping the car to literally boost to that number, which means that Elon is correct and the information is wrong, even though they're looking at the wrong acceleration mode. Now, I mention this, the only reason I mention this at all, because this isn't a big news story, which is why I'm doing it at the top of the podcast here. It's a little appetizer, but I mention this at all for three reasons. First, for the obvious one. Elon and Tesla have so very rarely talked about the new Roadster, and it just makes me incredibly happy whenever they do. Second reason, because, as ever, Elon and/or Tesla mentioning the next-gen Roadster keeps my flame of hope burning for this car, which I admit I had very recently begun to doubt again in light of Elon's recent hard pivot to focusing really quite intently on AI and autonomy. I thought, well, maybe the Roadster is going to fall by the wayside again if he's now sort of pivoting the company to this. This post from Elon would seem to pretty reasonably suggest, I think, thankfully, that fear is unfounded, that is not the case, that the Roadster is happening, it is in development now. And then third, the third reason I wanted to bring this up, because this also seems to more or less confirm something that I'd long suspected, that even if you're not using the SpaceX cold gas thrusters, which is, by the way, is going to be 99% of the time, probably, since I think it's very highly unlikely that the thrusters are going to be street legal, meaning you're going to have to take it to the drag strip to fire those bad boys off, that the 0 to 60 sprint using just the car's 4 electric motors, yes, I said 4, I'm willing to bet an In-N-Out Burger lunch that it is going to be a quad motor setup rather than the originally specified Plaid 3 motor setup. So that the acceleration sprint to 60 using just the car's motors will be even quicker than the Model S Plaid's 1.99 seconds. Now, the obvious comp for the Roadster is quite clearly the Rimac Nevera, which is the only, well, for now, it's the only electric supercar in the world right now. BYD has announced one. I talked about that on the podcast a couple months ago, which is also the last time that Elon talked about the new Roadster. But so BYD has announced one, and of course, the next-gen Roadster we're still waiting on. The Rimac Nevera exists. Some people have it, not many, because the production run is only going to be 150 cars, and they haven't even built all 150 of those cars yet. But that car, the Nevera, costs $2.4 million, and the new Roadster will cost about an order of magnitude less than that. But forget about that for a moment, because the Nevera is awesome. But even just, again, forgetting the price, I fully expect the new Roadster to match the acceleration time of the Nevera at 0 to 60, or in fact, even beat it. I think there's a very good chance that the new Roadster, without the SpaceX package, will beat the Nevera's 0 to 60 time. And if you're curious, well, Ryan, what is the Nevera's 0 to 60 mile per hour time? Officially, and this was filmed, it's on YouTube, you can go watch it. It was done on a closed road, not a track. It was a regular straight shot of highway in Europe, so not a prepared surface. I mean, I'm sure they made sure it was free of debris or anything potentially, dangerous, like rocks, big rocks or something, but it was on a regular closed road. The Nevera did 0 to 60 miles per hour in 1.74 seconds. And if you're also sitting there going, okay, what about the tires? Did it cheat with racing slicks? No, it didn't. It did this on street legal Michelin Sport Cup 2 tires. Now, for all I know, which admittedly isn't much because I'm not an engineer, you might be bumping up against the limits of physics at that point, at 1.74 seconds. And by that, I'm referring to traction. to go from 0 to 60 miles an hour on a car sitting on 4 tires in 1.74 seconds. That might be bumping up against the limits of physics without the cheat code of the SpaceX package to simply bypass that physics limit and shoot the car down the track, down the road even quicker. So, yes, look for the new Roadster to hit 60 miles per hour off of any red light in no more than 1.74 seconds, and I cannot wait for that to be a reality. That is going to be absolutely incredible because while, again, the Navara exists, it's real, it's by all accounts awesome, you and I will probably never see one, and if you do, it's almost certain that you won't see it driving on the road. You'll probably see it at a car show if you see one at all. And that's a shame. And I'm not trying to get into a whole Rimac thing here. They're a small company and they're doing this run of 150 cars. But my point is that the next-gen Roadster will be produced in sufficient quantity such that, it won't be like a super high volume, but you will probably see one on the road at some point in time. You will have a realistic chance to see one in action on the streets. All right, speaking of quick Teslas, I've unfortunately got a bit of bad news that I regret having to share with you to start the podcast this week. As I teased at the very top, the Model 3 Performance has received another price adjustment. And unfortunately, it's another price increase. It's up another $1,000 and now costs $55,000 as the base price for the Model 3 Performance. Specifically, it's $54,990. There is one silver lining here, though, and that is that white interior is now available specifically on the Performance Model 3 at no extra cost. So if you do want to buy a Model 3 Performance and qualify for the full $7,500 point of sale federal tax credit, you can only choose stealth gray for your paint color, but you can choose black interior or white interior, which means the net effect of this price increase, if you want white interior, is the same as the last price increase a week or two ago, in that the price went up $1,000 then, and then the price of the white interior went down by $500, down to $1,000 instead of $1,500. So this, if you want stealth gray with white interior, you can get that. It'll cost the same as it did a couple weeks ago, and you'll still qualify for that $7,500 tax credit. But I guess it's also good news if you do decide to choose any of the other colors, because even though you would be disqualifying the car from being able to get the federal tax credit of $7,500, you'll at least be saving $1,000, or as it was for a little bit there, $1,500. You'll be saving a bit of money by not having to pay extra for the white interior on whatever color Model 3 Performance you choose. So I have to imagine, as I said already, and it remains true, the ratio of stealth gray Performance Model 3s that get ordered and thus get built compared to any other color, any of the other 4 colors, it is going to be incredibly tilted in favor of the stealth gray. They're going to be pumping out stealth gray Performance 3s relative to any of the other colors. And so, okay, the price is up another $1,000. That's the second price increase in the 3 weeks or so that this thing's been on sale so far. And I have to imagine that these 2 price increases suggest that the demand for the new Model 3 Performance is strong thus far, because I can't imagine that they would be upping the price twice in a span of 3 weeks if the demand on the car was soft. I suppose the question now is, how long will the price stay where it is? Or, to put it another way, will it keep going up Will it stay where it is, or might it come back down a bit to allow buyers to potentially choose at least one paint option? Whether it's the deep blue metallic, or I'm trying to remember, I don't have it in front of me now. I think the black, solid black's $1,500, so that's not going to be it. But blue is $1,000, and ultra red's $2,000, and so is pearl white multicoat. Pardon me. Anyway, we'll see where the price goes. Now, I will say, I don't think it's going to go up. I think this is the ceiling on the Model 3 performance, because this is currently the only Model 3 that qualifies for that $7,500 federal tax credit. And if Tesla were to increase the price again at all, it would mean none of the Model 3 performances qualify for the tax credit. And I just don't see them disqualifying the car like that, when they are clearly showing here in these first few weeks of availability that they can and are willing to sell the car at or less than $55,000 so that it qualifies. On the topic of tax credit-friendly Tesla configurations, I had a quick follow-up thought that I wanted to share with you that I should have brought up last week, just as a final point to my speculation about Cybertruck option pricing, when I talked about those two new Cybertruck options last week. And that is, unfortunately, the only Cybertruck that's going to qualify for that $7,500 point-of-sale federal tax credit, at least until the single-motor rear-wheel drive version of the Cybertruck is made available, whether that's right at the start of general production or sometime later in 2025, is the bare-bones, dual-motor, all-wheel drive Cybertruck. That means that unless I'm wrong about the Cyber wheels with the all-terrain tires and the white decor interior each costing more money, the only configuration that you're going to be able to get and still get your truck for $72,500 out the door is a dual motor with tactical gray interior decor and the core wheels and covers with those all-season tires. Now, I suppose if you really want the Cyber wheels, you could always just buy them after purchase from the Tesla shop and still come out ahead. You'd have gotten your tax credit and then just buy those wheels, those Cyber wheels afterwards, because a Cyber wheel and all-terrain tire set from Tesla is almost certainly not going to cost $7,500. You'd still come out ahead. If you want the white decor and the tax credit, though, you're going to be pretty out of luck there. There's no path to that, probably. Again, if my speculation is accurate, and I'm pretty confident in this, that you're not going to be able to get the white decor and still get that tax credit, unfortunately. Though at least as I was talking about last week, it won't be a fully white interior that you're missing out on, unlike the other four Teslas. The seats are still black even in the white decor Cybertrucks. Now, I wanted to do a follow-up to last week's episode and ask all of you via the Patreon poll this week, what Cybertruck interior color do you prefer? The tactical gray, which I posted a picture up of along with the poll, or that white decor? Which one do you prefer? And thank you to everybody that kindly took the time to vote. You can vote on the poll every week. A new poll goes up usually on Tuesday evenings, sometimes a little later, sometimes a little earlier, usually not later. You can vote. You don't have to be backing me on Patreon. There's no cost, anything involved. If you want to vote in the poll every week, you can do that. No problem. Head on over to my Patreon page, found at patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. Patreon spelled Patreon. And the results. What's your preferred Cybertruck interior color? Pretty definitive here. 50% of you voted for tactical gray, which I did note in there as likely no extra cost. And Some of you probably voted that, that factored into your vote, the probable lack of any extra cost. And for some of you, you just like the tactical gray better. So 50% of you voting for tactical gray, likely no extra cost. 19% of you voted for white with likely an extra cost. 12% of you, little undecided, you voted for I want to see both in person before making a decision. And then just 2% of you saying it depends how much white decor costs. And then 16% of you said, I'm not getting a Cybertruck / just show me the results. Thank you again to everybody that took the time to vote in this week's Patreon poll. All right, one more fun little thing as I continue to get this week's podcast heated up for you. Remember the decorative, not for whacking into your Cybertruck cyber hammer from a couple months ago? You may recall that when I talked about it on the podcast, it was a referral prize that had a quite high loot box reward price. It was going to cost you 4 referrals worth of points. And the hammers were a numbered, limited edition set of 800. Well, I just wanted to do a quick follow-up on this because it seems as though there weren't 800 takers, or at least more likely, there weren't 800 folks with enough loot box points to grab all 800 of these, to claim all 800, or I should add on either there weren't enough or there weren't enough willing to spend that many loot box points on the Cyber Hammer. So on that episode from a couple months back, I correctly predicted that a few of them would end up on eBay right away, but I very incorrectly predicted how much they would sell for. I believe I said I thought $250. Well, a couple of them, it's fair enough. It's only a couple. It's not a ton of them, but there were a couple people that were willing to pay about 10 times that. 2,000 to 2,500-ish were what a couple of them sold for. So if anybody was the beneficiary of that $2,000 plus, the sellers, those people could have sold for a huge profit and then still bought one when Tesla put them up for sale. Yes, the unclaimed cyber hammers, however many there were, ended up being put up on sale on the online Tesla shop for the price of $700. They have now since sold out. So we will have to see if any of those get scalped on eBay, get put up for resale, and if so, what the market for them will be now that Tesla has sort of set the baseline at 700. A couple people have paid quite a bit more than that. It will be just a fun little thing to keep an eye on. I just thought I wanted to bring this up on the podcast because I just thought it was a very strange turn of events in a very short amount of time on this very unique product. And on that note, I have to wonder, what is going to be the next crazy non-automotive lifestyle product that Tesla will come up with? I'm not sure. And I'm not sure anybody can predict what it's going to be because they have gone all over the place with these fun, crazy lifestyle products. All right, before I get to this week's main news stories, I hope all of you that are very kindly and generously giving back to the podcast through my Patreon, which you can sign up for at patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. I hope all of you at that $10 per month tier or higher enjoyed this week's Lightning Round mini episode. I do those Lightning Round mini episodes every week on Patreon for everybody at that $10 per month tier or higher. This week's episode was about Model Y Juniper refresh speculation. I made some predictions for what I reasonably think we can expect to see on the refreshed Model Y in terms of when we might see it, what the front might look like, what the back might look like, what the wheels might look like, and what the interior might look like. So if you're interested in hearing that, as well as the other 94. There are now 95 lightning round mini episodes up there. And if you jump on the Patreon, if you want to support the podcast, support what I'm doing here, and you join that $10 per month tier or higher, you will instantly get access to all 95 of those lightning round mini episodes, as well as each new one that I will do every single week from here on out. So again, you can join the Patreon at patreon.com/Tesla podcast. All right, let's talk more Tesla news this week. First up in the main stories, this comes via Bloomberg, who writes, Tesla has begun hiring back some of the almost 500 members of its supercharging team that CEO Elon Musk dismissed late last month. Chief among the personnel who have returned is Max DeZeger, the director of charging for North America, according to people with knowledge of the matter who asked not to be identified because the information is private. DeZeger, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, it's D-E and then Z-E-G-H-E-R. DeZeger was one of the top managers after Rebecca Tanucci, the senior director that Musk fired late last month, along with virtually everyone else in the charging group. It wasn't immediately clear how many laid-off workers have been rehired. Musk and DeZeger didn't respond to messages seeking comment. Now, this comes on the heels of Elon tweeting this past week, quote, just to reiterate, Tesla will spend well over $500 million expanding our supercharger network to create thousands of new, he says in all caps, new chargers this year. That's just on new sites and expansions, not counting operations costs, which are much higher, end quote. I'll also add that the official Tesla Supercharging account on X, which is Tesla Charging, if you'd like to follow it, they also posted for the first time since the layoffs, which is a good sign. So it seems as though things are what you might fairly say regressing back to the mean a little bit, in a good way in this case, and that we are going to have a supercharging team after all. As Bloomberg noted in their report, we don't know just yet how big that team will be, but this should come as a sigh of relief for a lot of you out there. It certainly comes as a sigh of relief for me. Now, Bloomberg made what I think was a fairly apt comparison to 2019. And if you're thinking, well, wait a minute, what happened in 2019 that compares to this? I have to confess, I forgot about this. So I will tip my cap to Bloomberg. I think this is good context for this story. And if you remember 2019, Elon announced that Tesla was going to close most of their retail stores. And then within a week or so, they very quickly backtracked on that. And as we all know, as we sit here in 2024, we still have lots and lots of Tesla stores. In fact, we have many, many more stores now than we did 5 years ago. So that's a good sign and hopefully a good omen for the future of the supercharging team and the supercharging efforts, expansion efforts, maintenance efforts, improvement efforts, upgrading efforts, etc. at Tesla. In more good news, your headline story this week, we have a notable FSD development update from Elon Musk. He took to X to say, quote, version 12.4 goes to internal release this weekend, meaning right now, as you're hearing this, and limited external beta next week, meaning this coming week that you're hearing this. Roughly 5x to 10x improvement in miles per intervention versus version 12.3. 12.5 will be out in late June. That will also see a major improvement in miles per intervention and is single stack. No more implicit stack on highways. End quote from Elon. He also responded to a question about when the Cybertruck will get FSD, and he said that would come with version 12.5. Well, this is the timeline that I was curious about when I talked about this on a recent episode. It sounds like all of us might see version 12.4 probably within the next couple weeks, maybe a little less, but I think, within the next 2 weeks. There's a good chance that many, if not most of us, will get version 12.4 with this 5 to 10x improvement in miles per intervention. That is awesome. But bigger than that, in my humble opinion, is this news about version 12.5. The improvement in miles per intervention will remain to be seen on that one once we all get our hands on it, but the single stack piece is what's really intriguing to me. I knew we were on a single stack on both highway and city streets with version 12, but I didn't realize, I'll be honest with you, I did not realize that version 12, which, as we all know, is end-to-end neural nets and removes a bunch of hard-coded stuff, was only end-to-end neural nets on city streets, and that it was still effectively version 11 on highways. So I am eager to see what improvement version 12.5 will bring to highway driving specifically. My personal biggest complaint about the FSD stack as it is now on the highway is with how robotic it is with lane changes near an off-ramp exit. This is one of my chief complaints here, and I don't know if any of you share this or if you have other things that annoy you, but for me, this one is a big one that I'd like to see. This end-to-end neural net behavior is going to train it like that. I want to see this stamped out. And what I'm talking about is that if you have an exit coming up and you're one or more lanes away from the rightmost lane that you need to be in to exit, your car won't even think about getting over into that rightmost lane. And I guess I should specify here, if you're one lane over, so if you're in the one lane over from that rightmost lane where you need to be to exit, the car will not even think about getting over into that rightmost lane until you're 0.6 miles away from the exit. And it's more like 0.61. It's like right as it's ticking from 0.6 down to 0.5. That is when you will see the cars on your screen light up in blue on the right lane, like, hey, I'm looking at these cars. I'm telling you, I'm indicating that I'm going to be making a lane change here. It will not happen under any circumstances until you hit that predetermined distance away from the exit. If you had a good window to get over a quarter mile back, it doesn't matter. The car won't take it. If you had that good window, but it waits, and then there are lots of cars in the lane that exit lane that you're trying to get into, well, it's frustrating. It's because you had a good chance back there, but you didn't take it because it just behaves robotically in that sense. So that's the kind of behavior that I really want to see eliminated. I want that, we've all sort of heard about, and some of us have really firsthand experienced how version 12 on city streets really does behave more human-like in various scenarios. That is the kind of more human-like thinking and behavior that I want to see on the highway. So really hoping for that kind of improvement on the freeways in version 12.5. Also huge with 12.5, of course, is that the Cybertruck will finally get seemingly both basic autopilot and FSD. Because, of course, every Cybertruck sold so far has FSD paid for on it. So all of you out there who own Cybertrucks right now have been very patiently waiting for the thing that you already paid for. It's going to end up being 6 months or so of a wait for some of you, which is quite patient, I would say. Now, I would politely ask you to be a little bit patient, a little more patient, just for a little longer with the timeline. And the reason I say that, again, I'm not trying to pick on him at all, because this is a complex software challenge. But, Elon said late June, which is awfully specific for being 2 versions away. And we know that his FSD timelines haven't always held up. So I would exercise a bit of additional patience there. Although, about that awfully specific late June ETA for 12.5, which, as Elon said, will bring with it the arrival of FSD on the Cybertruck. I wonder if Tesla is going to be able to officially recognize the revenue on the books for FSD on every Cybertruck in the fleet once 12.5 goes out, and thus that's why they want to get 12.5 out by the end of June so that they can count that revenue from every single Cybertruck that they've delivered up to that point as part of their Q2 financial numbers. I mean, it makes sense, right? So we'll see if they make that goal or not, and I guess I'll never know if the end of quarter realizing the FSD revenue is a factor or not, but I think it's a reasonable guess, right? Particularly since, Tesla has had a slow year so far, right? Q1 was tough, the numbers were down, and they probably want to recognize as much revenue as they can in Q2. So if they've got, let's say by the end of Q2, because right now I'm seeing reports of VINs around 10,000 for Cybertruck right now. And they're making about 1,000 of them a week. And we're sitting here in the exact middle of the quarter. So if there's another 6 weeks to go in the quarter, you're talking about another 6,000 let's say just conservatively, that means at the end of Q2, there will be about 15,000 Cybertrucks. Could be more, but let's say 15,000. Well, if it's 15K, and if Tesla can recognize the revenue, and I have to imagine that they are considering that revenue $12,000, because that was the price of FSD when they rolled out the Cybertruck, then $12,000 per truck times 15,000. What is that, like is that $18 million? I've got the number right. I don't know if I have my decimals in the right place. But my point is, it would not be an insignificant amount of money on that. So we'll see. But if you're a Cybertruck owner, definite reason for optimism that you'll have it in about 6 weeks or so. And then the good news for the rest of us waiting for the general production of the Cybertruck, it means by the time that any of us take delivery, because whenever general production starts, that FSD and basic autopilot will be available. I mean, basic autopilot will come with the truck, and then if you purchase FSD, that will be there right from the day that you take delivery. All right. Oh, one other note, actually. Sorry, I have one other note about version 12.5. Since it's going to be a single stack with end-to-end neural nets, is this going to replace what is, at this point, the very old legacy basic highway autopilot stack that anybody out there who hasn't purchased FSD is running? Now, I realize the challenge of that, if it's a single stack, is geofencing it so that it turns off when you get off the highway if you haven't paid for FSD. But the cars know when they're on a highway versus when they're on city streets, so presumably this is doable. And if I'm correct about that, then hopefully that means sooner rather than later, possibly very soon, that everybody, regardless of whether or not you've paid for FSD, well, actually, I guess I'm speaking specifically about the people that have not paid for FSD, that you will get a meaningful upgrade to your basic autopilot. That would be fantastic. Fingers crossed on that. All right, the last thing I've got for you this week. I hate to end on not so great news, but I didn't really find a better place to put this. I just figured I'd throw it in at the end. It's not great, but it's good to inform you about, and that is this. A nonprofit has launched a new emissions lawsuit against Tesla, claiming that the company's Fremont, California factory paint shop exposes nearby residents to harmful pollutants. I saw this written up on Teslarati, who sums it up in part as follows. The Environmental Democracy Project filed the suit with the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California this past week, accusing Tesla of violating the Federal Clean Air Act since January of 2021. In the lawsuit, the organization accuses Tesla of letting its paint shop produce excessive nitrogen oxides, arsenic, cadmium, and other harmful chemicals. The nonprofit is seeking an injunction on further emissions and civil fines of as much as $121,275 each day that Tesla continues to violate the Clean Air Act. In another case, with the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, settled in 2021, Tesla agreed to pay a $1 million penalty and install solar panels on its roof to mitigate air quality violations. Earlier this month, the aforementioned Bay Area Air Quality Management District said it would seek out an independent hearing board to order the automaker to decrease its harmful emissions from the factory's paint shop. Now, I mention this in the interests of fairness and balance. I certainly talk about how, yes, I'm a Tesla fanboy, but this is a serious thing that merits discussion. Now, I mention this as well with the intention of following up on it. If and when this whenever this lawsuit reaches a conclusion either way. I will tell you, I have no idea who the Environmental Democracy Project is, nor do I know if there's any validity to their claims. That's what the suit will decide. As Teslarati noted in their summary of this, Tesla did previously have an issue with that local environmental regulatory agency, and they ended up settling that. So it is at least in the realm of possibility that Tesla could be in the wrong here. However, to again point back to my unfamiliarity with this organization, this nonprofit, sadly, you can never tell anymore what a group's motives might be. Because after all, so-called environmental activists recently stormed Giga Berlin. That's not an exaggeration. They stormed it like a giant horde of zombies, ran at it. There's video of it online. And they were trying to disrupt the one company in the automotive and energy sectors that has at this point, decade-long track record of trying to protect the environment and improve the quality of the environment. So that's what I'm talking about when I say that I just have no idea if the modus operandi of an organization, even one with the seemingly well-intentioned name of Environmental Democracy Project, is if they are raising a legitimate issue here, or if they're just trying to disrupt Tesla for some reason, whether it's hating Elon Musk or whatever the reason, because that's, seemingly the protesters in Germany, for claiming to be pro-environment, are setting their sights on the wrong company here. And so all I'm saying is it's possible that this Environmental Democracy Project could be doing the same thing for various reasons. We'll find out what happens in this case, how it ends, and I will follow up with you here on the podcast once it all has come to a conclusion. All right, That's everything I've got for you in, as usual, another busy week of Tesla news. Before I get to your phone calls in the Ride the Lightning hotline, I want to mention my friends at Accelerate Auto and their XCare extended warranty policy that you can get for your Tesla. And it doesn't matter how old it is. It doesn't matter how many miles are on it. It doesn't matter where you bought it, whether it was from Tesla or from a private party or a used car dealer. It doesn't matter. XCare can be purchased for any Tesla, and the terms of it are really up to you. If you want to just do what Tesla offers, which is a 2-year, 25,000-mile extended warranty policy, you can get that for your Tesla. If you want to do 10 years and 125,000 miles after your factory warranty, you can do that with XCare. If you want to do something in between like I did, I've got a 3-year, 40,000-mile extended warranty policy on my car. You can do that. So just take a look on their website if this is of interest to you. See what might make sense. Price it out. Maybe you want to do the battery and drivetrain coverage as part of your overall extended warranty. Maybe you want to forget about the rest of the car. You're not worried about that. Maybe you just want to buy a policy that covers the battery and drivetrain. You can do that too. So head on over to accelerateauto.com/xcare. That's XCELERATEAUTO.com/XCARE. And don't forget to use the discount code LIGHTNING, and that will give you $100 off your policy purchase. Thank you so much to the folks at Accelerate Auto for kindly offering that $100 discount for the Ride the Lightning audience. Okay, time for your phone calls here on the Ride the Lightning hotline. If you've got a Tesla question, comment, or discussion topic for the podcast, I welcome and invite you to call in and share it. And you have a chance to be featured here on the podcast. There are 2 easy ways to call in. Either use your smartphone's built-in voice recording software, record the question. Please try to keep it to 90 seconds or less so that I can get to as many people each week as possible. And then all you have to do is email that file to me. My email address is teslapodcast@gmail.com. Or you can take that same 90-second or less call and call in and leave a message on the Ride the Lightning hotline. It's a toll-free number that you can dial anytime, 24/7, and that number is 1-888-989-8752. Again, that's 1-888-989-TSLA. And if you know someone special with an upcoming birthday, anniversary, graduation, or some other special occasion, you can give them a unique gift of recorded voices from friends and family telling them why they're special. The recordings can be podcasted or put onto a keepsake. Visit lifeonrecord.com to learn more, and we kick it off with Mel from Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Hey, Ryan, this is Mel from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Responding to Robert from Indiana last week on Mother's Day, he was talking about or asking about the acceleration boost on a used car, whether it transfers or not. I did recently purchase a Tesla Model 3 from 2021. I did buy it from Tesla. So it was used. A great deal, by the way. It was like $30,000 for 32,000 miles. It was awesome. But it also came with the acceleration booster. So I did not purchase that. It was with the car when I bought it. So an extra little added bonus for myself, because in addition to that coming with the car, it also came with the hold on a second, I got lost here. The auto steer. It also came with the auto steer. So truthfully, I only wound up paying an extra $2,000 to get the full self-driving for this particular car. So great deal, great, awesome, and just wanted to leave that update. All right, talk to you later. Bye.
Mel, I really appreciate that correction. Glad to know that Tesla doesn't reset it on a traded-in car and make the next buyer have to pay for it again. And I think by auto steer, I think you meant enhanced autopilot there, if you were able to pay $2,000 to get FSD, but that's great, by the way. I just wanted to kind of clarify that in case anybody was wondering. Anyway, I am happy to hear that you're loving the car so far, and guess what? I have good news for you. It only gets better. The software updates are going to add lots of new things for you over your ownership time with the car. Cheers, Mel. Thanks again for calling in. Next up, here's a new listener with a very relevant question.
Hello, Ryan. Short-time listener to the show, but I like checking you out every once in a while. Appreciate what you do for the community. So I had a simple question. I guess the buzz lately is because of the new Model Y lower interest rate. Everyone's got their eye on that. But I had a question regarding the variations of the Model Y. Do any of those variations utilize the LFP battery pack, or is that only the standard range Model 3? So I was curious about that. I think that might influence the direction some people go when they purchase it. Anyways, talk to you soon. Bye.
This is an excellent and very, very valid question. Unfortunately, though, the answer is no. There are no LFP Model Y battery packs, presumably because they wouldn't qualify for the federal tax credit up to and including now. Those packs have been and are made in China. Now, if that changes, then there's a decent chance that Tesla might offer an LFP pack. Although if they did, it probably wouldn't get 320 miles of range like the long-range rear-wheel drive new Model Y does, since the energy density is lower in an LFP pack, meaning you need more space, more cells to get the same amount of range that a nickel-based pack does. But on the other hand, the LFP pack might be cheaper for Tesla than the nickel-based pack, and it might incentivize them to do it, again, if they end up producing that here to qualify for the tax credit. Thank you for your call, and welcome to the podcast. I've got time for one more call this week. It is from Austin in Chicago.
Hey, Ryan, Austin from Chicago. Long-time listener, first-time caller. First of all, just have to thank you very much for all your content over the years. It led me and my wife to make a purchase of a Model Y 2 years ago, and my gosh, we are so happy with that car, and it's all actually thanks to you. I have two things I wanted to mention and one question. First of all, love your Patreon, love subscribing. It would be awesome if we could upvote certain questions or things or topics that you could possibly cover on, very similar to how they do on the shareholders call each quarter. So I thought that'd be a great idea. Maybe you'd implement that, and that'd be a lot of fun for all of us listening to that wonderful content. The second thing I want to cover was just a question. My friend is very conflicted about the Model Y right now. He doesn't know whether or not to wait for the Juniper, or with all the compelling options and financing packages, just pull the trigger and get a Model Y now. He's wanted one for a very long time. He's waited, and this might be the time for him, but want to get your opinions on, should he wait for the Juniper or should he pull the trigger now? So thanks so much for everything that you do, and have a wonderful day, Ryan.
Austin, I really appreciate those kind words, as well as your Patreon support. As far as your idea of patrons upvoting topics for the podcast, well, my hope is that I'm already curating the best and most interesting topics for each episode, but I'm certainly open to feedback and to new ideas, so feel free to email me or message me on Patreon if you'd like to keep ideating on that. That was the word I wanted. Ideating on that with me. I got to try that 3 times. Ideating, there we go. As for your friend's very awesome dilemma, I think what I would generally say, without knowing anything about his specific situation, such as how old his current car is, whether or not he's expecting any major maintenance to come up on it in the next year, etc., is this. Advise him to go test drive the new Model 3. That experience will most likely be extremely similar to the Juniper Model Y, especially on the interior. If he really likes that in comparison to the current Model Y, including the lack of turn signal and gear stalks in the new Model 3, that's something that is most likely going to carry over to the new Model Y as well, then I would advise him to wait. But if it's a wash, or if he wants the stalks on the new car, or his current car has a decent chance of costing him a good bit of money over the next year for maintenance, then by all means, pull the trigger now, would be my advice. The Model Y, as it currently is a proven great car, and that new long-range rear-wheel drive option is an absolutely killer value. I hope that helps, and thank you so much for your call. All right, that is all the time I've got for phone calls this week, but keep them coming. I promise I will get to more of your Ride the Lightning Hotline phone calls on next week's podcast. But I'm not done with this episode yet. Stick with me. I've got a little bit more Ride the Lightning for you, including the pro tip of the week coming up next.
Hi, this is Franz von Holzhausen, and you're listening to Ride the Lightning with Ryan McCaffrey, the Tesla unofficial podcast.
I'm looking forward to heading over to Fremont this weekend, not too far from the Tesla Fremont factory, where the awesome folks at Unplugged Performance, the aftermarket performance and mod and upgrade shop that works on Teslas, that has up to now lived next door to the Tesla design studio down in Hawthorne, California. I just got a tour of their facility back, I guess it was almost a year and a half ago at this point. It was right after I interviewed Franz the last time, last January. I snuck over there afterwards, and they were nice enough to give me a tour. I talked about it on the podcast at the time. Well, fast forward to May of 2024 here, and Unplugged Performance is expanding. They have opened a shop here in the greater San Francisco Bay Area, and once again, they're sticking fairly close to Tesla. Not quite next door, but they are in the same town, Fremont, California. They're having an open house, kind of a grand opening tomorrow as I record this. It'll be in the past for most of you who hear this. So there's a Tesla Owners Club event happening there to, have a grand opening, have a welcome, an open house, and I'm looking forward to heading over and checking it out. So car's clean, car's ready to go. The weather forecast looks good, so I'm looking forward to taking my car out and zipping on over to a really fun Tesla event this weekend. Maybe I will see some of you there. Entertainment recommendation for this week. How about Behind the Attraction? It's a show on Disney Plus. I may have mentioned this one before. I told you last week that I resubscribed to Disney Plus after letting it lapse following their significant price hike to renew my subscription. I thought, forget it. I'm not listening. I'm not watching it that much. Anyway, picked up a month after hearing about how great X-Men 97 was. It was worth it. It was awesome. And so before my month runs out, I'm just watching some other shows on Disney Plus. And one of them is Behind the Attraction, which, again, if I have mentioned this before, there might have only been one season. There's 2 seasons up of it now. And it profiles, it's like an hour-long history of some of the major attractions in the Disney resorts. So I've watched the Space Mountain one, the Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, the Indiana Jones Adventure. If you like Disney and you like the rides like I do, it's been a really fun show. So check that out if you have Disney Plus. All right, time for your pro tip of the week. It comes from Kathy in North Carolina. Go ahead, Kathy.
Hi, Ryan. It's Kathy from North Carolina. I have found a great way to access my Tesla from my Apple Watch instead of having to use my phone. There is a Watch for Tesla app that you can download, and it gives you access to most of the features for your car, including remote start, climate, opening the frunk or trunk, etc. And the icing on the cake for me is I utilize the modular face on my Apple Watch, and it puts an icon of my car right there in the center of my watch. So whenever I need to utilize a feature, I just tap on that picture of my car, and then I am able to roll down the windows if that's what I want to do. So I thought I would share this it certainly is a whole lot more convenient than having to find your phone and use it because the watch is always on your wrist. So wanted to share that with the other listeners. Hopefully it's helpful to someone, and know that you are quite appreciated in all that you do for the Tesla community. Take care.
Kathy, thank you very much for your kind words and for sharing this app recommendation. I have to say I have not tried this one myself, but I am happy to pass along your satisfaction with it, adding the friendly caveat for everybody that this is a third-party app. It's not an official Tesla piece of software. I say that because some folks get uncomfortable with that, but I will say any of the reputable third-party apps have API handshakes that keep your Tesla login and password super secure. I do wear a smartwatch and I really enjoy using it, so I might have to look into this one, Kathy. Thank you again. And if anybody else out there has a good pro tip of the week that you'd like to share with me and your fellow Tesla owners and enthusiasts, please send it in. And the way to do that is to call in just as you would with the regular Ride the Lightning hotline calls. I gave you the instructions for that a little while ago. Before I go, let me mention some friends of Ride the Lightning that hopefully can be of use to you sooner or later. I start with AbstractOcean.com, makers of 1 million different aftermarket accessories for all 5 Teslas. Yes, all 5 currently in production Teslas. I don't want to offend the original Roadster owners out there. There are 6 Teslas, 5 currently in production, and AbstractOcean.com has accessories for all 5 of those current Tesla vehicles, whether it's tempered glass custom fit screen protectors made from the same stuff that Corning uses for Gorilla Glass, or it's a rear footwell lighting kit, which I think is great for the Model Y. I think, come to think of it, that rear footwell lighting kit would also be great in the Cybertruck as well, because those seats are up on risers as well. Could really light up that under seat area, especially since the Cybertruck, there's kind of room under there for storage. So having a little light on that would be pretty nice. So the point is, take a look on AbstractOcean.com, click on whichever Tesla you own, and you'll see all of the compatible accessories that Abstract Ocean has. Pile everything you like into your online shopping cart, and when you get to checkout, use the coupon code RTLPodcast to get 15% off of your first order. That coupon code again, RTLPodcast, all one word there, no spaces. The Snap Plate and newer Snap Plate Plus is available at everyamp.com/RTL, and there's a discount code for that one too. The coupon code is simply RTL. And the Snap Plate is the front license plate bracket that'll snap on and off in seconds, but when it's on there securely, and when it's on, it is a beautiful, very clean, minimal design that blends perfectly with the Tesla front end. Make those fix-it tickets go away for those of you who, like me, do not like having to use a front license plate. The Snap Plate Plus, if you're curious as to the difference between the two, the Snap Plate Plus is strength optimized with hardened features for maximum strength. It is made with stainless steel reinforcements. I mean, actually, both have stainless steel reinforcements, but the Snap Plate Plus is the maximum strength version of the Snap Plate. So again, get yours at everyamp.com/RTL, and don't forget to use the coupon code RTL. If you're considering solar on your home or business or both, be sure to check out budgetsafesolar.com. Keep them on your list. I don't expect you to just check them out and just go with them. You're going to want to price this out and get some different quotes from different providers, including Tesla, of course. Tesla was my first stop. Didn't work out for me with Tesla. They didn't want to put a high enough kilowatt system on my roof that I was looking for. Budget Safe Solar was willing to customize a setup for me, and they did just that, and I'm super happy with it. And now, in fact, I can literally tell you, this is no joke, my bill last month, or well, whatever the most recent bill was, negative $15 was my utility bill last month. So, and the big reason for that is because I wanted a 100% offset system. I wanted enough solar generation on my tiny, narrow San Francisco roof to generate enough power to completely offset my energy usage. And Budget Safe Solar was able to do that, and now I am reaping the benefits of it. So if you do end up deciding to go with budgetsafesolar.com, don't forget, by the way, they do offer home battery storage as part of their setup. So yes, you can get a Powerwall as part of your installation as well if you desire that. Be sure to use the coupon code. Sorry, no discount, I'm afraid. I wish. Please use the referral code RTL. And again, the website is budgetsafesolar.com. If you need or want your car detailed to have it looking better than it ever has, and you are in or going to be in the greater San Francisco Bay Area, I implore you to take your car to Immaculate Reflections. The website is irdetailing.com. The Yelp page, if you want to see Yelp reviews, is yelp.com/Immaculate Reflections. And the Instagram page is Immaculate_Reflections on Instagram. There is a discount for Ride the Lightning listeners there. However, you reach out and get in touch with Immaculate Reflections, which I recommend just doing through the website, which again is irdetailing.com. Mention that you're a Ride the Lightning listener, and if you do book in work, whether it's ceramic coating, paint protection film, or paint correction, or a combination of those, there will be a Ride the Lightning listener discount waiting for you. You just got to bring it up in a polite way. Patreon. I mentioned it at the top, but that is the way that you can voluntarily choose to give back to the podcast. If you feel like you get a lot out of it each and every week, you've been listening for a while. I mean, I've been at this for 459 consecutive weeks at this point here on episode 459. So I'm here every week for you. If at some point you see it in your heart to support me on Patreon, I would be humbled and grateful if you would do that, if you choose to do that. The support tiers start at just $5 a month. Sign up and you can pledge $5 a month. And in return for that, I will give you early access to each week's episode as a thank you. And if you want to step up to that most popular tier, that's that $10 per month tier, that'll get you the early access each week, and it'll get you those weekly lightning round mini episodes that I do exclusively on Patreon that I talked about near the top of the podcast. You can keep going. The maximum plaid tier, if you go all the way up there, as a number of very generous folks have, you'll get the early access, the lightning rounds, and you'll get your name shouted out at the end of the podcast each week, and you'll get a standing invitation to each month's Zoom Hangout, Patreon Zoom Hangout. We have a blast at those every single month. So again, the Patreon page one more time can be found at patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. Patreon is spelled Patreon. And a reminder too, if you'd like to just pledge once for the year, you don't really want to do the monthly thing, but you're willing to show some support, you just want to do a one round of that, good for a year, there's a 10% discount if you do an annual pledge at any tier. So just want to mention that as well. You can follow this podcast on all the major podcast services, from Apple Podcasts to TuneIn to Spotify to YouTube podcasts. Just search Ride the Lightning Tesla, or maybe even throw in podcast, Ride the Lightning Tesla Podcast on whatever your favorite podcast service is. You should find me pretty quickly that way, and you can just click follow, and that way you will be just pushed the new episode every time that there is one, which of course is every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, but you won't have to think to go get it. It will come to you. And finally, I'll just plug my socials real quick if you're interested in following me on either or both of them. My X account is found at DMC_Ryan. That's my username on X. And my Instagram is the same thing, DMC_Ryan. You can also email me anytime if you like. My Tesla email address here is teslapodcast@gmail.com. Finally, I want to say hello and thank you to those aforementioned upper tier Patreon backers. I want to start with the Maximum Plaid tier this week because I'm very grateful to have 2 new Maximum Plaid backers. Huge thanks and a big welcome go out to Adam Christie and Damon Klein. Thank you both so much for your generous Patreon support. I hope to get to talk to you and meet you face to face at next month's Patreon Zoom Hangout, which, I was looking at the calendar and I think we're going to have to aim right for June 1st. Saturday the first Saturday of June is June 1st because I will be on a business trip. Got a really we're doing a big live in-person fan event for my day job, IGN. That next weekend, the 7th, 8th, and 9th, I'm going to be doing my Xbox podcast live, including an interview with the head of Xbox, Phil Spencer. So if you're also a gamer and you're either in LA or you're going to be in LA and you want to come and hang with me, I can't promise how long we'll get to hang, but we'll definitely get to say hi. I can pretty well promise that. Come join us at IGN Live. Tickets for that are available at ign.com/live. But anyway, getting back to the Patreon, the June Patreon Zoom Hangout is most likely going to be on Saturday, June 1st. So I'll send out invites, calendar invites, a Patreon post, and emails about that about a week ahead of time. Anyway, huge thanks to those 2 new Patreon backers at the Maximum Plaid tier, Adam Christie and Damon Klein, and thank you to the rest of the very kind and generous Maximum Plaid backers. They are Jonathan Wales, Cameron Clark, Daniel Grummer, Seth Capello, Nick and Tony, the Galpin family, Ryan from New York City, Darren Nickel, Kaz Barnes, Brett Libano, Patrick Wisniewski, Gil Cabrera, Todd Badger, Joe Edgel, Kevin Yank, the Tesla Owners Club of San Joaquin Valley. By the way, if you want to see something crazy on Instagram, go check out the Tesla Owners Club of San Joaquin Valley account, and you can see Joe, the head of that club, who usually comes and hangs out with us on the monthly Zoom Hangout. In fact, I really hope Joe is able to show up to the June one because I want to ask him about this thing I'm about to mention to you. Him and John, the head of the Tesla Owners of Silicon Valley Club, took pickaxes to Joe's rear driver's side door of his Cybertruck, trashing it. It is apparently there was an issue with the door, so it needed to be replaced anyway, so they decided to just have a go at it. And it's a pretty wild video to watch, just somebody mauling their own Cybertruck door. So, Joe, if you're listening, please, I hope I see you. Well, maybe I'll even see you tomorrow at the Unplugged performance thing. Maybe I'll get to ask you about this tomorrow. Anyway, thank you, Joe, and the entire Tesla Owners of Silicon Valley club for kindly backing Ride the Lightning here at the Maximum Plaid tier. The rest of the Maximum Plaid backers are, I lost my place. Here we go. Michael Williams, Will Stedman, Derek Nessel wrote, Justin Perez, Jeremy Harris, Chris Beach, Tom Mills, Corey O'Donnell, Aaron, John Cody, Joel Sapp, Paul Casarino, Richard Corley, Chris Osborne, KB, Doug Carey, James Gregory, Adam Lavoie, contact1callcenter.com, Jason Chalukas, Travis Krenzel, Bruce Otterstein, Tom Behan, Josh Pennington, Matt Kalin, John from Cream Ridge, New Jersey, Sean Tisdale, Dustin Hart, Michael Gallo, Derek Finley, Charles Clement, and Rav. I should mention, you can also hang with me. You don't have to come, if you're not a video game person, you don't have to come to LA to come hang out with me if that's of interest. There is, of course, the Tesla takeover coming up in San Luis Obispo at the end of July, the last weekend of July. I've given a plug for that at the top of the last couple shows, but I'll be there. I'll be hosting some stuff, hosting a panel, and there will be, as I said, there will be a Ride the Lightning listener meetup at the Takeover event. So I'm really, really looking forward to meeting a bunch of you for the first time and seeing some others of you for not the first time. It's going to be a really, really fun event. Looking forward to seeing a bunch of you. I'll say hello and thank you as well to the Roadster in Space tier backers. Big thanks goes out to Pete White, Lyle Austin, Steve Radspinner, Fernando Cordero, Lawton from Chicago, Sean Neidig, Neil Weaver, Jackson Wallace, Rolf and Jennifer Evers, Howard Anthony Smith, Victoria Iacovetto, Tesla Hitchhiker 42, Carol Weston, Robert from near Philly, Kristen Rumble, American Home Contractors, and GetAmber.com. Finally, a hello and thank you goes out to the Grandfathered in Plaid level supporters. They are George Cassiopo, Logan Willis, Peter Chalet, Eric Randolph, Dory and Steve Guberman, the Tesla Owners Club of Taiwan, Ron Lee, Charlie Gillespie, David Perella, Dennis Peak, Jeff Angwin, Chase Cabanillas, the Lydia family, Aaron Altschul, Jared Brown, Jerome Strack, Jamie Dalton, Mike and Barbara from Louisville, David J. Howes, Matt Nixon, the Tesla Owners Club of Wisconsin, Ish, Not Elon Musk, Peter, and the Bear Boys of Colorado. And while the subject of listener meetups is on my mind, I have already thought and basically decided that whenever I get my Cybertruck, which again I'm hoping will be in early 2025, assuming if general production starts in late November or December. But my intention is to road trip that Cybertruck down to the Phoenix area to visit my family, because I actually haven't been down there in a bit, and I want to show them the truck and just see my parents, see my sister, my brother-in-law, some other family members, other friends. And when I do that, I want to make sure to do an Arizona listener meetup. I've done that. I did that once before the pandemic. Might have even been 2019. I don't quite remember. Like maybe holiday 2019, end of the year. But reading Chase Cabanillas' name reminded me. Oh, because Chase was there. He was at that meetup. So we'll have to do that the next time I'm in Arizona. Anyway, huge thanks to all of you at every tier of the Patreon, no matter what tier you're kindly supporting me at. Thank you so much for giving back to the podcast, for supporting what I'm doing here. It's what keeps me going. So thank you so much. I do not take it for granted. That will wrap it up for Ride the Lightning episode 459. To my left, a curled up and snoozing Daisy the Boxer. I'm not quite ready for bed yet. I've got some TV to watch. I've got to put this podcast to bed. Got to do a little audio cleanup, get it uploaded, get it published, and that'll do it for this one. Episode 459 in the books. Thank you all so much for listening. Your time is valuable. I appreciate you spending some of it with me every week, talking about all things Tesla. I'm Ryan McCaffrey, of course. Happy electric motoring, and I'll see you back here next week.
Elon Musk, people don't like Elon Musk. The guy founded PayPal and Tesla, and people are like, yeah, but he's a troll and a bad dad. I'm like, so was mine. He did nothing to fight climate change. Also, have you been in a Tesla? Have you been in a Tesla? My buddy let me drive his Tesla. I laughed out loud at how fast it went. Been clinically depressed my entire life, on dozens of medications, in a Tesla for 13 seconds, cured forever.
I think a Tesla is the most fun thing you could possibly buy ever. That's what it's meant to be. Our goal is to make it's not exactly a car. It's actually a thing to maximize enjoyment. It's maximum fun.